Access the kitchen at Food Cost Cockpit via the side menu or landing page. All other features displayed here are in our introduction knowledge base article and video tutorial. For the purposes of this video, I will be the executive chef at this property. In the view options, I choose labor, and checking here, the current month is September. I review the figures from yesterday, and that I can do by hovering over the bar, and I'm able to see the amount of hours that is in the system. If I go onto the right hand side here by the data table, I can click on the specific day and see a complete breakdown of all the hours imported from the timekeeping system. And if I am happy with this, I save it. Dates that are written in the color purple means a national holiday. This is country specific and does not include Christmas Day and New Year's Day. The weather feature is activated. This is especially useful for properties with outdoor restaurants, bars, pubs, a swimming pool, and even properties which is near the airport. It displays the weather up to 10 days in advance. Two view options in the cockpit, productivity and hours. Here's a breakdown of the daily hours from the actual schedule that is imported into PMI. Various indicators on this chart: total food revenue, smart forecast, productive hours, and so on. Click a legend to activate it in the graph. Everything to the left of the black dotted vertical line are the historical hours and what the smart forecast was. To the right, the hours in the current schedule. I can check if yesterday's figures are correct. If there is good alignment, all is in order then. However, let's deep dive into these figures. So yeah, I can see that nothing extraordinary happened. No training or sick leave. We used about 43.5 hours versus the smart forecast of 24 hours. The reason we used so many extra hours is because the sous chef and myself both worked the late shift yesterday so that we could prepare the mise en place for the events today, tomorrow, and a bit for Thursday. So that explains the spike in the worked hours on Monday, as it's higher than the smart forecast and the total food revenue for the day. And if you look at Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, you see the revenue curve on the graph, the blue one here, increases, as this is where the revenue from the events are posted. We will not be using so many hours, so I will actually be adjusting the hours for today, tomorrow, and Thursday so that it reflects our current situation. So what can we learn from the past 27 days? Are there days where we were understaffed or overstaffed? How was the food service affected by the different staffing levels versus the actual activity levels? Did it impact the guest experience in any way? Did we deliver the food service on time to all the outlets? Did we get some feedback from the kitchen team, perhaps? It's too late to adjust these now. However, is there anything I can do to improve the results for this month? As I mentioned earlier, I will not be needing all these hours for the next couple of days, so I will align these to reflect the actual activity level in the kitchen. Best practice recommends looking 7 to 10 days ahead, and that should take me to the end of the month. And I will take a look at the first week of October to ensure the hours reflect the actual activity in the kitchen. Other factors I could consider in the long run: when last did I actually change the menus? What is not selling on the menu? Is the quality as it should be? Do we have enough vegetarian, vegan, and other dietary options at high quality? Does the staff shifts begin and end at appropriate times? Can they, for example, start or finish an hour earlier or later? Moving down further on the left here, you can follow the accumulated hours month to date or include the hours scheduled by month end. Choosing your local currency allows you to follow the accumulated labor cost per hour, which is calculated based on your reported total labor cost. Two more view options here. Total productivity. This includes productive and non-productive hours. Your non-productive hours are hours that are paid for by the property, but it was not part of your regular workday. So it could include PMI training, short and long-term sick leave, mandatory fire drill and evacuation training, and so on. The other, operational productivity, is the productive worked hours. On the right-hand side of the screen, you have the data table with all the relevant information for the month you are focusing on. Here you have the month-end forecasted hours, and this is how many hours I can use for the month of September. So how to calculate the productivity target? You use the cost driver, which is the total food revenue in this instance, and divide it by the hours forecasted for the month, and that's how you get your productivity target. This is the revenue produced per labor hour in the kitchen. And to calculate the smart forecast, which is the yellow line on the graph, this would be your daily cost driver divided by revenue produced per labor hour. If we look at the figures, we see that our live forecast is just over 717 hours. So far, month to date, we have used 576 hours. And if we continue in this way, this is what we will end up with using at the end of the month. Now, this is already a favorable result. However, the hours are not aligned with the activity in the kitchen, so I will do the necessary changes. So not only do we have a good monetary result, but we also use the hours where it's actually needed. All these figures are updated daily from your property management system, PMS, to ensure you can make good decisions at any time. You can manually input hours here. If, for example, the hours have not been scheduled in your timekeeping system, or you've forgotten because someone is sick and you needed another person to work. However, changes you make manually here will not be reflected in your TKS. Also, all the hours from the schedule module will appear here. Use the note function as often as needed. This is a great way to keep track of unforeseen hours used on a specific day. It could be anything from staff on training or even sick leave. In this specific example, I got a call early afternoon from the front office manager to say that the receptionist had just checked in the mystery guest. Of course, everything is in place, but to be 100% certain, I had the sous chef meet me so we could take one more check to ensure we had everything in its correct place. So this is where I filled in the comment, and as soon as I've saved it, it automatically appears on the management perspective for the general manager to see. It's always useful to understand how we ended up with the result. A little bit more on the data table here. The red horizontal line, everything above is the historic days, your past days, and then everything below is all future days. The highlighted one over here is today's date, so that's always in a darker font. Here above, you see the timekeeping system here is called time plan, and here you can see that these hours have been approved in the system. And then looking for today and then tomorrow for the next 2 days, then you see that it's in the color red, and this is because it is future hours that has not yet been updated in the system. And another example, just to show you very quickly, this is a cockpit that has not been saved from yesterday. And as you can see here, the time plan hours, the timekeeping system is in red, so hasn't been saved yet in the system. You are also able to click on any past day on your TKS system, and here you get an overview of all the hours used and exactly what it was. Further down on the data table is your month-to-date figures. Here you see how you are doing so far this month compared to the forecast, and month-end to see what you will end up with if you want to continue in this manner. This gives you a quick glimpse into any major changes that may be needed for the rest of the month. Here you also have the current average rate per hour, including social cost. Be sure to check that this is correct as it affects the labor costs. Depending on user rights, this may be only visible for you as the cockpit owner. And here, the scheduled hours. This shows the hours added in your PMI schedule. Unspecified means that it's imported from the timekeeping system or only scheduled as lump sums, and that means without a name. And one last comment on the graphs. Here's an example of shifts that are missing for the day. Let's do a quick recap of the daily routines in the cockpit. Labor cockpits should be saved at least 5 times a week by the cockpit owner. Update your timekeeping system before working in the cockpit. Look at the current month. Check the hours for yesterday and do adjustments if needed by clicking on the plus sign. If you don't yet have a TKS system installed, you will need to add the actual hours manually. Click on the plus sign for that specific day and enter the hours. Then you need to confirm to update the cockpit. Check yesterday's hours and add your comments. Check the status of your actual productivity and hours month to date and status for the rest of the month. Confirm that if you are behind your month-end target, you will look into the live forecast and schedule and try to align the staffing according to the activity level, meaning the hours used should match the revenue. Moving on to month-end routines, this can be done on the first working day of the new calendar month. Look at the month that passed. Are all the hours complete? Did we reach the productivity target that was set for the month? Summarize the month by adding a general comment. You can write the comment on the last day of the month. Here can be what went well and what the learnings were. Update the current rate here with the actual outcome after the P&L is ready at month-end closing. This task could be on the financial controller's checklist, so be sure to check what your property's routines are. And as always, don't forget to save. More information on the labor cockpit can be found in our knowledge base article and video tutorial series. Thank you and take care.